questa volta siamo nelle immagini.
Adelaide, there have been incidents all round the circuit. Time and time again, we've seen cars spinning off. We've seen drivers in trouble. Nelson Piquet started the ball rolling, the world champion, spinning off into us. As he got away, he spun the car back into action, and along came Philippe Streff, straight into the barriers. Then it was Pierluigi Martini, the little Italian. He gets his Minardi going again. Philippe Alliot arrives, jumps the curves onto the gravel. And then, with him thinking about it, Michele Alboreto does exactly the same thing. Misjudges the corner, goes straight into the gravel. Then it was Eddie Cheever's turn. With flames pouring from the turbo at the back of the car, he motored serenely onwards, laying a trail of oil all round the circuit. Not at all popular. Pier Carlo Ghinzani was the man we were watching next. Look at that turbo cloud of smoke pouring out of the back of the Zach Speed. It's Martini again! He's done it a second time. Not once, but twice. Pierluigi Martini rejoins the circuit. But this was pure poetry. Ayrton Senna putting up the fastest lap of the day to get pole position. Beautiful driving, 1 minute 17.748, and he did it as the checkered flag came out, and he knew that his teammate Alain Prost would not be able to do anything about it. And so, for the 13th time, this brilliant Brazilian, was starting from pole position on the grid. The top man of 1988, won more races than anybody else, world champion as the result of it, and more pole positions than anyone else. 13 pole positions in one season, and a record only beaten by Jim Clark, the great driver of the past, of 29 pole positions. And now, in pole position then, is Ayrton Senna. Next to him, his teammate Alain Prost. In third position on the grid is Nigel Mansell, the leading 3.5-litre engine driver in the Williams. Gerhard Berger, last year's winner in the Ferrari, is in fourth place on the grid this year. The reigning world champion Nelson Piquet in the Lotus Honda is fifth. Riccardo Patrese, Nigel Mansell's teammate, is sixth. Derek Warwick, the Englishman in the turbocharged Arrows, is seventh on the grid, ahead of Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton. In ninth place, it is Ivan Capelli in the March. Boutsen is 10th, well down for him. Alex Caffi, the little Italian, has brilliantly put the Dallara into 11th place, ahead of his countryman Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari. 13th, the Japanese driver Satoru Nakajima. 14th is Martini, who spun off in practice. Let's hope he doesn't do it in the race. Andrea De Cesaris is 15th. Streff is 16th. Jonathan Palmer, who had a big off in this morning's half-hour practice, is in 17th place. Chiva is 18th. Maurizio Gugelmin from Brazil in the March is 19th. And Stefano Modena, who made his Grand-Prix debut here in Australia last year, is 20th. Sala, the Spaniard, in the Minardi is 20th. First, Stefan Johansson, the Swedish driver in the Ligier, is 22nd. His teammate, René Arnoux, is 23rd. Philippe Alliot from France, who also went off in practice, is 24th. And there is the magnificent Adelaide Street Circuit. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, like it in the world. It beats Monaco, it beats Detroit. It's fast, it's spectacular, but more than that, it is tremendously demanding. This race is going to be one of the longest of the season. Only Monaco and Detroit and Hungary get near it in terms of time. And now, round we go with Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver. This is the section where he goes into the S's after the straight. And as he accelerates away, he is coming up to the right-hander at Wakefield Turn. That's a second gear, 70-mile-an-hour corner. Then up to the second gear, East Terrace Bend, which he's approaching at this very moment. Now on to Flinders, third gear, stays in third gear, now goes up into fourth gear, 120 miles an hour. Now he's at Market's Turn, on his way to Stag Turn with the famous pub on the left. Now down Rundle Road towards Brewery Bend, round Brewery Bend. This is the fastest part of the course. the Brabham Straight, building up to 180 miles an hour in 6th gear, before standing on everything for racetrack hairpin, 2nd gear, 70 kilometers an hour. Now the sweeping left-handed paddock turn. The numbers, incidentally, are camera position numbers that you see on your screen. And now coming down to Foster's hairpin, 2nd gear. See Nakajima's hand as he goes down through the gears, and now he has the pit straight in front of him and back into the S's again. So you've just done a flying lap in the Lotus Honda with the Japanese driver Satoru Nakajima, and you look at the grid. Ayrton Senna, well, is he going to make it his 9th Grand Prix victory of the season? Well, this year, I have absolutely no doubt that the Australian Grand Prix will be even better than it has been in the past, because there is no pressure on these drivers. Senna doesn't have the pressure of the World Championship. He is World Champion. And with us, we have, of course, another McLaren World Champion of the past, James Hunt.
And certainly we had a fantastic battle in qualifying between the two McLaren drivers, with Prost and Senna fighting it out. The pole position was changing lap by lap through Friday's qualifying. Prost came out just on top by pipping Senna on the last lap, but Senna had gone quicker than him 1 lap earlier, and we reversed the situation yesterday. And with any luck, the race is set up for a big battle between the two McLaren drivers. Ayrton Senna, of course, anxious and really keen to confirm his status as the new world champion and meet teammate Alain Prost today. And Alain Prost obviously wanting to finish the season on a high note. He had a slow start to the season. Senna got away from him in the championship, but he fought back absolutely brilliantly during the second half, made a real battle of it, and certainly went out as handed over the crown, as it were, to Senna in the most dignified and worthy way. We see Arrow's car, and there's the grid, just starting to clear the grid, engines running. They'll set off as they go now. Green flag away for a warm-up lap. This is only a parade lap, remember. Senna, the pole man, will lead the field round, and they use this to warm up their tyres a little bit, and then on the second half of the lap, Senna will slow the field down, let them bunch up, so that when they arrive on the grid with engines running, he doesn't have to sit there too long. He wants the whole field to arrive as near together as possible, so that, of course, remember, these Grand Prix cars don't have any fans for their radiators. They depend on moving for their cooling, so if a car is sitting still with the engine running, the temperatures are climbing. And we've got Eurobrun left on the grid. Stefano Modena has failed to get started. There he is, being pushed down the grid, and so that's a disaster for young Stefano Modena, who made his Formula 1 debut here last year and qualified very well in what's not the world's greatest car. Now, Modena is away. He is not allowed, when he catches the field, to overtake anybody, so he will have to start from the back of the grid. So Senna now slowing the field right down. He wants them all to catch up, as I said, because the water temperature will climb as they sit on the grid for the front runners. Also, they'll have the car already in first gear, and you get a little bit of heating up from the clutch as you sit there. The longer you sit, the more the clutch collects heat, as there's a bit of friction as it's dragging on the flywheel, and that, of course, can be very critical.
In pole position for the 13th time this season, Ayrton Senna leads them round on the grid. As you can see, Alain Prost is next to him on the staggered grid. Third is Nigel Mansell, and fourth Gerhard Berger. In fifth position, it's Nelson Piquet, the reigning world champion. Then in the Williams, Riccardo Patrese. Seventh is Derek Warwick, and eighth is Nannini in the Benetton. In ninth position, Capelli in the March. 10th, Boutsen in the Benetton. 11th is Caffey, and 12th is Alboreto. Then Nakajima and Martini, De Cesaris and Streb. 17th, Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell. 18th, Eddie Cheever. Gugelmin is 19th in the March. Modena, who's got away late, is 20th. And there, 23rd, Alio. 24th, Alio. And bringing up the last of the grid, Piercarlo Ghinzani, who has just made it this year. Modena, of course, will have to start from the back, as James has just said. I hope he has the presence of mind to realise that, and that he does not try to filter up to his 20th position. I can tell you that he is not trying to do so. I can look across the circuit and I can see the sensible young Italian cruising round at the back. He's lost 6 places on the grid, but in a race as long as this and as demanding as this, I don't think that will be too much of a problem for him at the back. So, all set now for this 82 lap, 192 mile Australian Grand Prix, which we expect to be a battle royal between that man, Alain Prost, and on his left, Ayrton Senna. A lovely start by Prost and by Nigel Mansell, who gets up alongside Ayrton Senna. But Prost leads away first, it's Senna second. Up into third position has come Berger. Fourth is Mansell, fifth is Piquet, sixth is Patrese, and in seventh place it is Thierry Boutsen. So they go round into the right-hander at Wakefield, up to Flinders, and it is Prost leading, Senna second, Berger third. Look for now by Nigel Mansell in the Williams. He is still ahead of Nelson Piquet. Up to Markins Turn, the right-hander which they're approaching now, then into Stag Turn. They're coming up to the part of the course now where the turbocharged McLaren Hondas will be able to use their superior power and from their point of view hopefully pull away, but the Ferrari of Berger is hanging on. Now they are into the Brabham Straight. There is Berger in third position, coming towards us, Prost and Senna, and Alboreto has gone off the circuit. Alboreto has crashed. There is the Ferrari. Alboreto out on lap 1. Michele Alboreto goes off.
Tremendous stuff at the start. Prost just stretching a little bit of a lead over Senna. Berger really charging. Tremendous combative first corner from Berger, because Mansell made a superb start off the second row of the grid, and I was expecting to see him in second place at the first corner, but Berger muscled his way past and is really charging in the Ferrari. He's not really expected to be able to stay with the McLarens throughout the race. Good job of it at the moment. So Prost leads. We have the situation that we were hoping for a good race, with Prost getting a good start. And Prost is really stretching out a little bit of a lead at the moment and looks to be very fired up. Now, action replay of the start of the race. Now you see Mansell bursting through from the second row. He gets alongside Senna. It was Berger heading for the inside for the first corner. Now, back live, Alain Prost trying to get away, trying to build himself a little bit of a cushion. He's absolutely at 11 tenths, and this is really an exciting performance from Prost. He is really throwing the car about, which is not normally his style.
And as you can see, Gerhard Berger is right up with Ayrton Senna. At the end of the first lap, Prost led Senna by 2.1 seconds, a lap time of 1 minute 27.56, which is absolutely terrific from a standing start. So now the battle is joined. Gerhard Berger will have a major problem very soon. He's not at all happy about the fuel consumption of the Ferrari. He will have to back off, but meantime he's pressing Senna hard. Piquet goes through in fourth position, and Patrese is right behind him.
I saw a little gesticulation out of the cockpit from Senna as he went past his pit, and Berger was having a look there, and I get the feeling that Senna may have a problem with his car. It looks to me, and the speed with which Alain Prost, you see him going out of shot there, the speed with which Prost is extending his lead also suggests that Senna isn't entirely happy. Berger, as Murray said, is unlikely to be able to sustain this pace. I expect he's using pretty much full boost with his turbo engine at the moment, and that certainly will be getting him a deficit on his fuel. And Berger, look, he's right alongside, he's having a go. Berger is up alongside Senna. Oh, Oh dear. And two very experienced drivers, and they nearly tangled. Their wheels were actually inside each other at one stage there. Tremendous stuff, but Berger makes it through.
So, Gerhard Berger, last year's winner, has bullied his way past Ayrton Senna on that, the third lap. And the order is Alain Prost now leading by 3.5 seconds from Gerhard Berger going through in second place. And here's a replay of Berger taking Ayrton Senna. Now watch him stay on the inside there as Senna and they interlock wheels.
Yes, it certainly was a case of bullying, because Senna's not an easy man to bully, and he didn't take that lying down. He was prepared to fight for the corner even though he was on the outside. And look at Berger go. He's a tremendously talented driver, very, very determined, very quick. He's been a bit miserable this season because the Ferrari hasn't given him the vehicle that he needed to do the job consistent with his enormous ability. But he's certainly getting the best out of it now.
Race order, lap 4, Alain Prost leading by 5.5 seconds. The little Frenchman is setting out to demonstrate that he may have lost the World Championship, but he is most certainly going to win the last race of the year, and he certainly will if he goes on like this. He is extending his lead over Ayrton Senna all the time, and Senna, of course, now in third position. Alain Prost fastest lap so far, 1 minute 24.18. He is the only person below 1 minute 25 so far, and Senna's last lap was done in 1 minute 27. Prost crosses the line. Gerhard Berger, I'm looking down the track for him. There he is going through, 4.8 seconds. So Gerhard Berger has gained a bit. Senna is 2.5 seconds behind Berger. Fourth position, it is Piquet. Now there is the flying Ferrari. I think that Gerhard Berger has either been sandbagging over his fuel consumption, or he is just going to make an absolutely terrific race out of it by forcing Prost.
Yes, I think that's Ferrari tactic. They want to have a really good showing here, and I think Berger is just going to say, to hell with the fuel, take the consequences and be damned, and just go for it. And just set the fastest lap of the race. He's actually catching Prost. He's pulling well away from Senna, and Senna's performance at the moment does look to me as if he's got a problem, and that little signal he made to his pit as he went past the lap before last makes me think he may have some sort of minor handling problem.
And you are watching by far the fastest man on the course. The brilliant Gerhard Berger is now really winding things up. He has just gone round in 1 minute 23.08, and that is nearly a full second faster than Alain Prost. The gap is coming down. It was 4.8 seconds last lap. It was 5.5 for the lap before. Now we'll see what it is as Prost goes through to complete his fourth lap. And the gap is down to 4.1 seconds. So Berger is catching the Frenchman at the rate of something like 0.7 of a second a lap. Prost leading, Berger second, Senna third. Piquet is still in fourth position as they go streaming through. Patrese fifth, Mansell is sixth, Capelli is seventh, Nannini is eighth, Warwick is ninth, and Cathy is 10th.
Yes, and let's just hope that Berger isn't throwing fuel away, and that he's running it in race trim, because if he is, he's catching Prost, and we could have a real battle on our hands.
Now let's savour this as Alain Prost goes down Brabham Straight, round racetrack hairpin, into paddock turn, which he will be in a moment, because he's approaching the racetrack hairpin now, and you can see the first four in the shot together. Prost, Berger, Senna, Piquet, McLaren, Ferrari, McLaren, Lotus, and Ayrton Senna. There he is. He's driving a better race here already than he has done for a long time. There is Patrese, Mansell, Capelli, Boutsen, Warwick, and Alain Prost coming through to complete the lap. Now, I'll give you the gap. I remind you that it was 4.1 seconds. Prost crosses the line. Now, 5 laps completed. Berger is going across. He's much closer. It's 3.6 seconds. So, before very much longer, we're going to have the marvellous sight of the double world champion. There he is, Alain Prost, the Frenchman in the McLaren Honda, which has proved virtually unbeatable this year, being caught by and having a terrific scrap with the car you're going to see in just a second. There it is. Gerhard Berger, who knocked a wing off in practice, fastest lap so far, 101.8 miles an hour, 163.8 kmh. And it's round the market's turn, up to Stag turn, third gear, about 70 miles an hour, which they're approaching now. Then the hammer goes down as Berger goes up into fourth gear at about 150 miles an hour. He's approaching Brewery Bend now. He can see Prost in front of him, and he can see in his mirrors behind him the third place man, Ayrton Senna. It's Prost, Berger, Senna, Piquet, Patrese, Mansell.
Yes, in fact, whatever problem Senna might have, it can't be too serious, because he's now found a new lease of life and speeded up and is lapping as quickly as Berger, which means that he is also catching Alain Prost at the moment.
There's the Ferrari, and there is the McLaren. Gap. This is the race at the front, and the gap is 3.2 seconds. Only a tenth. Senna goes through, still in third position. Piquet now is being reeled in by Patrese, who is in fifth place, pulling away from Mansell sixth, and Ivan Capelli is on his way. The man that I, for one, have been expecting to do very well here at Adelaide, who was not at all good in practice, has made up 2 places from 9th to 7th.
Yes, and certainly the atmospheric cars are now beginning to show their teeth behind the leading turbos, because remember, of course, that the Atmo cars don't have a fuel limitation, as do the turbos, so they actually start the race quite noticeably heavier than the turbo cars, but of course as they use the fuel, then that weight disadvantage is quietly whittled away, and eventually, of course, they have a lower weight limit and they become lighter. And they are now beginning to lap in the low 23 seconds. That's Patrese and Mansell. Capelli are beginning to threaten. They're certainly not losing ground to the leading turbos now.
Capelli is actually lapping over a second slower than the turbos at the front at the moment, but it's a long way to go in this race. And as James was saying, the weight of the fuel and the consumption of the 3.5 litre cars will tell, and it's 2.7 seconds now between Prost, the leader, there on this, the 9th lap, and Berger in second place. And Berger has again gone round faster than anybody else. 122.012. A marvellous scrap at the front. And behind the Ferrari there is still Ayrton Senna. Senna is about 5 seconds ahead of Piquet, who is in fourth position. Piquet is 1.6 seconds ahead of Patrese, who is fifth. And Patrese is the same amount ahead of Mansell, who is sixth. So it is a McLaren leading, and Berger in second place and Senna in third.
Prendere i cordoli nell'affrontare appunto queste curve della pista. Vediamo qui che sale sempre su quel cordolo, che è molto rischioso perché è molto alto e molte volte rovina anche la sospensione. Chiaramente Berger è all'attacco, pensa solo di raggiungere Prost, mentre Prost secondo me sta pensando a finire la gara, ha forse dei problemi di consumo, stanno chiaramente rispettando l'ordine del consumo. Invece Berger secondo me sta andando un po' oltre il limite, sia come consumo sia per quanto riguarda la struttura fisica della macchina, il materiale, perché secondo me non riesce a finire la gara andando sempre su questi cordoli.
Ecco, sono cordoli piuttosto alti.
Dammi la linea.
Linea Zerbiani.
Vediamo Michele Alboreto che sta arrivando dai box dalla parte retrostante. Michele Alboreto. Purtroppo una chiusura di questa ultima giornata Ferrari piuttosto brutta, no? Triste.
Troppo pochi metri.
Cosa è successo?
Una toccata con Caffi alla seconda curva e purtroppo la gara è finita.
Ho capito. Stavamo discutendo su quello che era stata la tua prestazione al warm-up, diciamo molto bassa come velocità. Come mai?
Ma ho cercato di lavorare per la gara perché per me era importante finire, però purtroppo...
Per i consumi?
Sì, per i consumi penso che il ritmo che si può tenere è quello.
Ma scusa, è il ritmo che sta tenendo Berger, che questo è il nostro dubbio che stiamo discutendo.
Speriamo che piova.
Grazie. Ecco, forse c'è da interpretare, visto e considerato Palazzoli è molto in confidenza, questa battuta, speriamo che piova.
Senz'altro, è chiaro che se dovesse piovere si interrompe la gara viene fatta poi in 2 manche, devono cambiare gomme, i consumi diminuiscono. Non lo so, se sono riusciti a fare un accordo per la pioggia, penso che ai box stiamo facendo la danza della pioggia, ce lo auguriamo anche noi qui che piova, perché effettivamente Berger con questa grinta meriterebbe di più che il fermarsi in pista eventualmente senza carburante.
Intanto avete visto che Berger si è ulteriormente avvicinato a...
Berger in third place, the defending or reigning world champion after this race will be Senna, then Piquet is up in fifth position for Tracy, then Nigel Mansell. The only car out at this time is Alboreto, who crashed on the first lap. He walked away from the car, he's all right, and we'll now go back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Sincerely hope that he's not, but I'm afraid the reality of the situation is that I must surmise that he is, because I don't think he could possibly sustain this pace if he was using a level amount of power and fuel consumption to average through the race. Riding up the curve, Berger still absolutely on the limit and getting closer and closer all the time. And the heat of the battle for the lead, you see Senna there in the background, and they're beginning to drop Senna. Senna's dropping back slowly, gently. He's 7.5 seconds behind Berger.
11 laps into this 82-lap Australian Grand Prix, and there has only been one retirement thus far, and it is the significant one of the unfortunate Michele Alboreto, who has now driven the whole of his last race for Ferrari. But Gerhard Berger hasn't. Watch the way he goes. Now, let's see what the gap is. Prost crosses the line, Berger crosses the line. 1.2 seconds. Ever closer to Gerhard Berger's eye line is getting the gearbox of Alain Prost Ferrari. He will be able to read the small print on Prost's helmet before very much longer. Round Wakefield Turn, round East Terrace Bend, up to Flinders, up through the gearbox into fourth, fifth. About 130 miles an hour at this point. Market's Turn again. The people on the veranda of the pub at Stag Turn are going to get a real eyeful soon, and it's going to be the eyeful of Gerhard Berger riding on the rear of Alain Prost Ferrari. Senna is still third, Piquet is still fourth. Turbo cars first, second, third and fourth. Patrese and Mansell fifth and sixth. Seventh and eighth, Capelli and Nannini. Warwick is ninth, Cappy is 10th, Boutsen is 11th and Streff is 12th.
Yes, and surprisingly, Patrese is actually beginning to get away from Nigel Mansell a little bit. He's pulled some 3 seconds on his teammate, and in fact, Capelli and Nannini are pretty much stuck behind Mansell. They're in all in close company, and I would think they're probably trying to look for a way past.
Where is Ayrton Senna, I hear you asking yourselves? Answer, 7.5 seconds behind Berger. And Berger is now 1.2 seconds. The gap has steadied. By the way, a magnificent race by Alex Cappy, the little Italian in the Dallara. He is in 10th place, and he is staving off Thierry Boutsen in the Benetton.
Michele Alboreto, that's terrible luck. Half a lap, and what happened?
I had an accident with Alex Cappy in the second corner.
Because you were so far back, you were stuck in the traffic.
Yeah, when you start so far from the first lines, it's quite normal to have these contacts in the first corner. So bad luck this year.
So what happened? Did he just? It was impossible to avoid. He came into you.
Yeah, the car is in a really bad condition, I tell you.
Never mind. Okay, thank you, Michele.
Thank you, bye.
Yes, the Honda didn't quite catch it right on the brakes, and it looked to me as if he just gave the wall a bit of a nudge then, so that's probably the end of Modderman's race. Now Berger, the closest he's been yet. Berger working his way into a position to attack Prost for the lead. And certainly Berger's car very quick on the straight when he's using, and just seen that Stefano Modena didn't do any damage in that, or at least he's got going again, so Stefano Modena is back in the race. And we'll come back to you on how healthy he is.
And of course, Gerhard Berger has never left it. My goodness, this gritty Austrian is going for it. Keeps himself in trim with ice hockey in the winter. He needs good reflexes for this, and he's got good reflexes for the Grand Prix 2. Watch the Ferrari now edging up onto the gearbox of the McLaren. And if Berger decides to give it a touch more boost, going down Brabham Straight, which they are approaching now as they go down Rundle Road on the way to Brewery Bend. He could be right up with the Ferrari as they come out to Foster's Hairpin, the slowest corner on the course, and Berger's going for it. Berger's going through on the inside, and a Ferrari leads the Australian Grand Prix on lap 14. Now, is Berger just saying, I don't care how much fuel it uses, I'm going to be in front when I retire? Or have Ferrari got the fuel consumption problem linked? Or, here's a replay, see the way he just drove straight out from behind Prost.
Yes, he did the right thing there. He sold him a bit of a dummy. He made as if to tuck him behind Prost going into the corner, and then nipped out at the last minute, and a lovely clean overtaking manoeuvre. Tremendous driving by Gerhard Berger, who really seems to be keyed up right to the limit. You can almost feel the confidence coming out of the cockpit of the Ferrari, and there's no doubt that Gerhard Berger is having a very enjoyable Sunday afternoon.
Allegedly the man with the slowest heartbeat in Grand Prix racing. He always looks incredibly cool and laid back, and he will be really enjoying this, but he is not relaxing one iota. Modena, by the way, has spun again, and I think he's in real trouble in the Eurobrunn. But now Gerhard Berger is almost a second ahead of Prost. McLaren's a second and third. Don't forget that Alboreto is out of the race. It's still the turbocharged Lotus Honda of Piquet in fourth place. Then the two 3.5 litre Williams of Patrese and Mansell in the points, fifth and sixth.
Yes, and Nelson Piquet having his best race in quite a long time. He's seems to have got everything gathered up. He's in a very strong fourth place at the moment, some 6 seconds behind Ayrton Senna, because he really has had a bit of a disastrous season, Nelson Piquet, and his mood has rather reflected it, but let's hope he's able to go out with a good finish and cheer himself up and come back all refreshed and trying hard next year.
That is Thierry Boutsen going off in the Benetton, and Boutsen was in 11th place. So now race order on lap 15 out of 82. There is the leader, Gerhard Berger. Prost is now 1.3 seconds behind him. Senna is in third place, 6 seconds behind Prost. Piquet is fourth, 7 seconds behind Senna. Patrese is fifth, 1 second and less, as you see a replay of Boutsen.
And Brewery Bend seems to be the place that's catching everybody out. We've seen Modena go off there, Boutsen then spinning, but he managed to get away without hitting anything. So, and Modena in fact spun twice there. So one wonders if maybe there's a little bit of oil there, a little bit slippery on the entrance for some reason. So, Berger in the lead, but he's backed off his pace just a little bit. He and Prost are not going quite as quickly as they were when Berger was on the charge to catch and passed Alain Prost. Berger now lapping over a second slower than he was at the height of the charge, so maybe having gained the lead, he's come back on his turbo boost and is now, he was prepared maybe to invest some of his fuel to get into the lead, and it looks like he's now come back and is on the old economy run.
Still got the fastest lap of the race though, Gerhard Berger. He went round on lap 8, 1 minute 22.012. He's got his rhythm now. He can see Prost in his mirrors, of course. He's getting his pit signals both through his earphones on the radio and from the pit board that you just saw. And the Austrian is well underway, and Jonathan Palmer is pulling out of the race on the main straight on lap 17. So it looks like retirements at the moment are Alboreto, Modena, I haven't seen him go past recently, Larori and Jonathan Palmer out of the race there.
Delle vetture con motore aspirato, ma anche di quelle con vetture turbo. Comunque la Ferrari è forte, è sempre stata grande, e credo che in pochi mesi potrà recuperare questo svantaggio di prontezza sulla McLaren.
Grazie ingegnere, intanto avevate visto nelle immagini Jonathan Palmer con la Tyrrell Ford numero 3 che si era fermato contro un muretto, addossandosi a un muretto, evidentemente per il cedimento di qualche particolare meccanico. Nella classifica la situazione di testa è sostanzialmente invariata, ma vedete che in queste immagini giustamente la regia ci propone altri duelli ed è quello in particolare dell'attacco che sta portando, mentre intanto ecco un altro testacoda di una Benetton, questa volta è Nannini, che si trova in ottava posizione ma che rischia adesso di perdere, come vedete, abbondanti posizioni. Ne ha già perse 4 e riparte mentre lo sta superando il suo compagno di squadra Butzen, che nel giro precedente era stato a sua volta protagonista di un testacoda nella stessa curva che aveva visto anche l'uscita di Modena in precedenza. Vi stavo dicendo l'attacco che sta portando all'inquadrato Nelson Piquet, campione del mondo uscente, Riccardo Patrese alla sua 176esimo Gran-Pri. Vi ricordo che degli italiani Caffi è decimo, De Cesaris 12esimo, Martini è 15esimo. In questo momento Nannini è in 13esima posizione dopo il testacoda che abbiamo visto sul teleschermo. Inquadrato Piquet. Una stagione difficilissima quella di Piquet che veniva da una conquista abbastanza avventurosa e in parte fortunata del campionato del mondo, il suo terzo titolo iridato. Continua come si può dire, la saga dei brasiliani in questo campionato del mondo, dopo il grande Fittipaldi, dopo Nelson Piquet e la volta di Ayrton Senna. Secondo te, Palazzoli, quali sono le doti, le qualità che fanno sì che la scuola brasiliana continui a dominare in Formula 1?
Per Senna aveva già dimostrato, uscendo quando girava coi kart, di essere un grossissimo campione, di avere molta determinazione, un istinto che lo portava a guidare la vettura in modo incredibile. Piquet, senz'altro, io mi ricordo già da quando correva in Formula 3 ed era arrivato in Europa, era fortissimo anche lui e poi era passato subito su una McLaren gestita.
So we're back, live action here of course, and back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Berger's extended his lead a little bit, but Prost still got him very much in his sights. Berger crosses the line. Prost now 2.4 seconds behind, and Senna only 4 seconds behind them.
Don't forget what I was saying earlier on about this being a race of attrition. It's only been running half an hour or so. There's still nearly 1.5 hours to go. Fuel may yet prove to be a problem for Berger. Prost may yet prove to be being the canny man, just keeping Berger in sight and keeping his own fuel reading on the right side. Don't forget too that there's a lot of cars going to drop out of this race already. Alboreto is out, Modena has spun off twice, Larori is out of the race, Palmer is out, Boutsen has spun, Nannini has spun. It's a tough, hard circuit here at Adelaide. The drivers are changing up, changing down, braking, accelerating all the time. There is absolutely no remission for them. And now on the 20th lap, which is just under 1/4 distance, 3/4 of the race still to run, Gerhard Berger is still 2.5 seconds ahead of Prost, who is 4 seconds ahead of Senna. The two McLarens second and third, and doesn't that make a change? There is the pit signal, and in fourth position it is still Piquet, but getting closer to Piquet all the time is Patrese in fifth place. Getting closer to Patrese is Mansell in sixth position. In seventh place, Capelli, then Warwick is 8th, Cappy is 9th, De Cesaris is 10th, Streff is 11th, and Boutsen, in spite of the spin, is 12th.
And this is now developing into what would appear to be a very tactical race indeed for the leading turbocharged cars. Remember, of course, that they can adjust their boost, which adjusts accordingly their fuel consumption, and it would appear that the three leading drivers, Berger, Prost and Senna, have got into a bit of a game of cat and mouse with each other, because they're varying their speed almost from lap to lap. I have the advantage here of this, looking at the printout of their lap times each lap, and there's no way that with the variation we're getting amongst them, that they're a little bit of a slide there on Prost on entry. The back was a little bit loose as he turned in, and Prost doesn't like the car to be handing loose at the back. But they're certainly changing their power settings from lap to lap, and that would be in response to their readout, of course. They know at all times, they can see what they've got there. You see now 2.9 seconds behind Berger and 4.5 seconds ahead of Senna, and as Gerhard Berger sets up a new fastest lap at the front, 1 minute 21.9 seconds.
This is the last Grand Prix after years of dominance by the turbos, for the turbos. Are they going out at the top with a glorious victory? There's still a long way to wait for that, because now in fourth position it's still a turbocharged car, that of Riccardo Patrese, as you see Berger, and as you can see Berger is still the fastest on the circuit, 166.154 kilometers an hour, and that's 103 miles an hour. Prost second, then the second McLaren, and there is now something like 9 seconds between Berger, the leader, and Ayrton Senna in third position, and there is the Brazilian.
Yes, and behind Nelson Piquet there's now both Williams threatening. Mansell has re-caught teammate Riccardo Patrese. Patrese is still behind Piquet, trying to find a way around, but as yet not looking very much as if he's going to, because of course of the power advantage that the turbo has when it gets onto the straights. Berger still just inching away from Alain Prost up front, some 3.4 seconds clear now. There's Senna, who's back in third place, nearly 6 seconds behind Prost. And it's interesting because Senna has been further away than that, then then got the gap down to about 4 seconds, and now as the leading pair have heated up their battle, Senna's dropped back a bit again.
Talking about as I say that, because Nelson Piquet in fourth position is only separated by 1.7 seconds from Nigel Mansell, who is in sixth position. So we've got a bunch of 3 cars at the front, and there's the third of those 3, Ayrton Senna in third position, chasing his teammate there, Alain Prost second, with Berger leading. As you see, Ghinzani spinning again, and then Nelson Piquet has got right behind him the 2 leading 3.5 litre cars, and there's Piquet going through, there is Patrese, and that was Mansell, and here they are, coming down the Brabham Straight, 4th, 5th and 6th together.
Jonathan Palmer, you're not getting a lot of luck these days. What happened?
Well, it just came out of the hairpin here before the start-finish line straight, and I think it must have torn a teeth off the crown wheel and pinion. It's lost all the drive through the transmission. Of course, that was terminal.
Well, if you had a duck, it'd drown. Okay, thanks, Jonathan.
Be able to lead the 2 Williamses down the straight, so he may well, just by holding his line and taking it steadily through the corners to ensure not to make any sort of mistake that would let them through, he could fend them off for quite a long time. Now we get to the twisty bit of the circuit, and this is where the Williams will be able to reel in the Lotus Honda. Sparks there from Patrase's car, just bottoming over the bumps, and the circuit is really just to add to the driver's misery physically, because it is very hard work. It's pretty bumpy. Mansell twitching a bit. And now we're starting to come to the faster part of the circuit, and this is where Piquet, once they get out onto the straight, will be able to stretch the longer lengths of the turbo Honda engine. And you see, although the Williams cars can follow him round easily enough, there really isn't a point on the circuit as yet that I've seen where they look like standing any real chance of getting past Piquet, so long as he makes no errors.
There are a lot of lasts in this race, and you're looking at a couple of them now. The last race race for Nelson Piquet with a Honda engine, and the last race for Nigel Mansell in a Williams before he joins Ferrari. So Piquet fighting for that 4th place. Patrese, and coming up to the S's now, and the twisty bits at Wakefield Turn, East Terrace Bend, Flinders Bend. This is where the nimble Williams with its Judd 3.5 litre engine and no throttle lag could start to catch Nelson Piquet. The best Piquet has done this season is 2 third places. He will want to improve on that here, the last Grand Prix of 1988.
Yeah, he's certainly responding to the pressure from behind, because Nelson has just put up his fastest lap of the race so far. And Alessandro Nannini has gone into the pits.
Lap 25, Berger leading by 3 seconds, Prost second still, and he is 7 seconds ahead of Senna. As you look at the battle for 4th place, Piquet, Patrese, Mansell, Lotus, Williams going into the right-hander and racetrack hairpin. Behind them it is Capelli 7th, De Cesaris is in 8th position, and that's excellent. The Italian in the Real is up into 8th position after a good practice. Thierry Boutsen has recovered from his spin, is in 9th position ahead of Derek Warwick, who is 10th. Cappy is 11th, Streff is in 12th position, then Nakajima is 13th, 14th is Pierluigi Martini, Johansson is 15th, then Gugelmin, Chiva, Nannini, because of the spin, has dropped to 18th, Sala is 19th, and René Arnoux in the Ligier is 20th, and they are all still on the same lap, with Gerhard Berger the fastest lap so far, 1 minute 21.9. The Victoria Park part of the circuit, the horse racing part of the circuit. They go in there, and that's Arnoux taking Berger. Arnoux done it yet again. He's done it yet again, and into the lead goes Prost. Where's Senna going up into 2nd place? René Arnoux, the man with the widest car on the course, and the man who continually does this, has taken the leader, Berger, out of the race.
And a man who has no business to be in Grand Prix racing with the standard of his driving, and he's ruined the race for us. We had a wonderful race on our hands, and look at it again. Berger is quite clearly lapping him. He's coming down the inside. Arnoux takes not the blindest bit of notice, takes the front corner off the Ferrari, and that really is a disaster, because we had a tremendous race on our hands, tremendous tactics going on up front, and now Prost has been handed the lead. Marshals now got the unpleasant task of removing those 2 stricken cars, getting them off the track, and they're not so easy to handle when they got all bent and bitter and twisted suspension, as you see there. And what a terrible shame that René Arnoux, who really has had long enough in Grand Prix racing to prove that he's got no business in it, that he can interfere and ruin the race for all of us. Now Prost is going through the traffic there.
Well, that is René Arnoux' 130th Grand Prix, and it is the one that, frankly, brings him nothing but shame. He has, as James says, completely destroyed what was showing every sign of being a magnificent race. The question now is Alain Prost going to win for the 7th time this year, or can Ayrton Senna catch him and make it his 9th Grand Prix victory? It looks like now, even at this stage of the race, and we are on lap 26 out of 82, like another McLaren 1-2, and that would be the 12th of the year.
Yes, very much so, because they've already got a big lead over Nelson Piquet, who of course has now moved up to 3rd place, courtesy of, yes, Senna is now some 19 seconds ahead of Piquet, so there's no threat to the 2 McLarens behind, but there is some threat to Alain Prost, who throughout this season has found lapping the back markers a lot more difficult than Ayrton Senna has managed to. Prost is a lot more wary and a lot more cautious, and they're in amongst the traffic now. They'll be lapping cars for the rest of the race, and throughout the season, that has always worked to Senna's advantage. Senna is closer to Prost than he was 3 or 4 laps ago. He's only 4.5 seconds behind him right now.
Now, there is one thing that might just be a joker in the pack. Ayrton Senna, that you are looking at now, damaged his right wrist playing football in Bali between the Japanese Grand Prix and coming here to Australia. He's had that wrist quite heavily strapped up during practice, protesting that it really didn't bother him very much, but that was in a situation where he was not having to drive a grueling 2-hour race. On the other hand, now he will know that Berger is out of the race. Incidentally, Modena is not out of the race, despite the fact that he has spun twice. I see him there in front of Senna, so he's very much in the running. And Ayrton Senna, with the knowledge that he could still here in Adelaide achieve that 13th win of the year, that 9th win of the year, sorry, at 13 poles, the 9th win of the year, and that would add to his point score. At the present moment, Ayrton Senna has 87 scoring points in the championship. That is Ghinzani, who has clearly spun again and is rejoining the circuit. Now, Ayrton Senna, if he won this race, would be able to add more points. He's got to drop a score, which would be a 4th place, 3 points, so he could add 6 points to his already record score and finish up with an incredible 93 points, but not if that man, Alain Prost, can stop him. Prost leading the race, 2nd in the championship, place 1 plus 4 on Ayrton Senna, or he was on the previous lap. Prost goes across the line, followed by Ayrton Senna now. The gap is increasing. Alain Prost is now 5 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, who is in 2nd place. And as we have seen so many times this season, in fact, 14 times this season out of 15 races, the McLarens are dominating the event. Nelson Piquet now goes through, and Nakajima is between Nelson Piquet. He's been lapped. Satoru Nakajima is between Nelson Piquet and Riccardo Patrese and Mansell, and will, I have no doubt, not be making it too easy for the 2 Williams cars to get ahead of him, with the knowledge that if they do so, they could close up on and pass his teammate. Of course, Piquet is now in 3rd position. In fact, the order on lap 29 out of 82, Prost is leading Senna by 5 seconds. Senna is leading Piquet in 3rd place by 20 seconds. Patrese is 1 second behind Piquet in 4th place. Mansell is 5th, 1.7 seconds behind Patrese. And Capelli, Ivan Capelli in the March Judd, has slowly made his way up and up and up. From 9th position to 6th he is in now. He's in a point-scoring position, and I remind you that Ivan Capelli is the man who finished a magnificent 2nd in Portugal, and actually for a few hundred yards led the Japanese Grand Prix, the first time that a 3.5-litre engined car had done so for 4 years. And you're looking now at Piquet, Patrese and Mansell.
Yes, and Piquet seems to be controlling that little battle pretty effectively from the front, using the turbo advantage very well indeed, because really the 2 Williamses, although I'm sure they could go a bit quicker if they could get past him, they just don't seem to be able to get close enough to pose any real threat at the moment.
No, and if Ayrton Senna has got, if Nelson Piquet has got a fuel plus, he's all right. But now Mansell, you can see, is getting very close to Riccardo Patrese. Looking down on this magnificent Adelaide circuit with its Blue Perfect facilities, excellent road surface, magnificent organisation. It really is a demonstration of the way to do it. And Mansell exits the right-hander of Brewery Bend. It looks to me just every bit as quick as Patrese, but hats off to Riccardo Patrese. He really has come alive in the last 2 or 3 races. And Mansell, in his last race for Williams, will not want to be beaten by his teammate. And the fact that Mansell and Patrese are fighting each other for that 5th position is giving Piquet the opportunity to ease out the gap between himself and the Italian.
Yes, and Mansell starting to look impatient behind Riccardo Patrese, and I would think that Mansell would like to be saying to Riccardo, okay, you've had a go at trying to get past PK, let me past and I'll see what I can do.
Alain Prost has lapped everybody up to the 16th place man at the moment, and that is Alessandro Nannini. It's not a happy race for the Benetton team. They did not do all that well in practice by their standards. Thierry Boutsen starting 10th on the grid and Alessandro Nannini starting 8th. And now Boutsen is in 8th position. And Nannini, of course, is well down on account of that very heavy spin that he had earlier on. But still, the battle of the race at the moment is Piquet, Patrese, Mansell, 3rd, 4th, 5th. There is the Englishman, and here are all three of them. The leader, Alain Prost, goes through to complete his 32nd lap, and the gap between him and Ayrton Senna now is 6.2 seconds.
Yeah, Gerhard, that's terrible luck. What happened?
I break out one of the, I think it was Ferrari or Modena, and I thought René Arnoux have seen me, and I had some brake problems too because it was very hot. So he turns in and I had no chance to brake anymore. And it just go over my front wheel.
Oh, so sad. Okay. Sorry, Gerhard.
The gentleman and sportsman that he is, he controlled himself because he must have been absolutely shatteringly disappointed and angered by that stupidity from René Arnoux, that lack of any apparent. He seems to be in a world of his own, taking no interest in the fact that he's being lapped by somebody who's leading the race. Prost still looking very controlled. Prost has just done his fastest lap of the race. He's now broken the 1:22 barrier, and he's 6 seconds, just over 6 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna.
Prost's fastest lap, 1 minute 21.9, compares with Berger's lap record last year with 4-bar boost, 1 minute 20.4. So Prost is 1.5 seconds off the lap record, but with at least 200 horsepower less than Berger had last year. And Alain Prost is coming up now behind Nannini, who slows up and lets him through, and that was the exact point where yesterday Nannini hit the wall very hard indeed.
Further down the field, we've got a tremendous battle raging for 9th place. Derek Warwick holds 9th place, but climbing all over the back of him are Alex Cappe and Philippe Streff. So, Prost, a bit of traffic in front of him.
Alex Cappe looks to me as though he's retiring, touring in to retire, and that is a great pity, because this little Italian seems to get better and better, race by race, and Cappe is retiring from 10th position on the 35th lap, as Ayrton Senna there continues to drive along rather than have any effect on the lead of his teammate Alain Prost. Senna in 2nd position, and the gap between Senna 2nd and Prost 1st is 6.2 seconds. So it's a demonstration race, and a very effective demonstration. There is Alex Cappe. He is indeed out of the race, parked beside the wall. Those blocks are put in position on what are basically everyday streets. Well, not basically, they are everyday streets in Adelaide during the rest of the year. And now Mansell is in a challenging position for that 4th position, which is held by Riccardo Patrese. Now, Riccardo Patrese is a man who in the past has been accused of being unnecessarily obstructive, who seemed to have overcome that habit, who in on one or two occasions recently showed he'd got it again. I wonder if he's going to defer to Mansell, knowing that he, Patrese, will be with Williams next year when they are using the Renault V10 engine, and that Mansell will not be his teammate any longer. I suspect that not for 1 second will he defer.
So would I. Leopards don't change their spots. I've always believed and I'm quite sure Mansell expects it to be very difficult to get past him. He's now showing that he's certainly keen to do it, and Mansell seems to lose a little bit on the straights.
Yeah, Rennie Arnoux, you just had a contretemps with Gerhard Berger, and everybody says that you are very difficult to pass. What can you tell us what happened?
I am really sorry because I have another car in the back of my car, and I turn in and I didn't see Gerhard. I am really sorry for Gerhard because he was first this time. And I turn in because I don't see the Ferrari car.
So you didn't actually see him in your mirrors, but everybody says it's so difficult to pass Rennie Arnoux.
It's difficult to pass every driver, I think, in Formula 1, but Gerhard, one lap for me, and if you see some race before, when the leader of the race is in the back of my car,
Any sort of misunderstanding and having to lift just as you're coming out of a corner will give the others the chance to get alongside. Meanwhile, up front, Alain Prost has now put up the fastest lap of the race with a 21.7. Piquet uses the power of the turbo to get past, and he gets a little bit of a breather. Provides a little cushion before the two Williamses.
Philippe Alliot at the wheel. Incidentally, Yannick Dalmas, Philippe Alliot's teammate, is not here in Japan. The unfortunate man has Legionnaire's disease, failed to drive in the Japanese Grand Prix with what was thought to be an ear problem, turned out to be Legionnaire's disease. His place in practice, and through past goes Patrese, so Patrese is now ahead of Alliot and can take up the battle with Piquet. And I was telling you about Dalmas. His place was taken during practice by Pierre-Henri Raphanel, the French Formula 3000 driver, who got off the plane on Thursday, only the day before practice began, never having even sat in a Formula 1 car, did extremely well, but just failed to qualify for his first Grand Prix, which certainly would have been a very tough one here at Adelaide's, a nearly 2-hour race. So the order is resumed. Well, the order didn't change, but they were interrupted by Alliot, and on lap 37, it is Prost leading by a comfortable 7 seconds. There he is from his teammate Ayrton Senna. Then there is quite a long gap before, in third position, the gap is 35 seconds. Piquet goes through with Patrese and Mansell, fourth and fifth, right behind him. Capelli is in sixth position, and he is some 14 seconds behind Mansell. De Cesaris is out of the points in 7th place. Boutsen is 8th. Warwick is 9th. 10th is Philippe Streff, 11th is Martini. Then in 12th position is Stefan Johansson in the Ligier, the only one left now that Arnoux has disgraced himself. And the Ligier hasn't been as high up in the field as that for a long time, but Stefan Johansson has been lapped. Gugelmin in the second march is in 13th place. Cheever is 14th, Nannini 15th, Sala 16th, Modena 17th in spite of his double spin. Philippe Alliot is 18th, and Nakajima is 19th. As you see, Eddie Cheever there being caught by Nannini, and they are respectively in 14th and 15th places. That's one of the Eurobruns. That's Modena that you're looking at now, the ex-Formula 3000 European champion. Piquet. Well, Nelson Piquet at the present moment looks as though he might be on his way to his third place in 1988, having finished in that position in Brazil and San Marino. And Piquet, in terms of the championship, is in 6th position. So the 4 points that he would get would be very welcome. It wouldn't make any difference, I think. Although Michele Alboreto, who is the man ahead of him in the championship, in 5th position, is of course out of this race and will not be scoring any points.
Prossimo lunedì, il 21, Vediamo come la situazione in Vienna, perché quando gli austriaci arrivano in un deal commerciale con Eccleston, io penso c'è la possibilità di ritornare.
Grazie Niki e buon proseguimento, ciao.
Grazie mille, sempre così gentile con noi.
Intanto avete visto un giro più veloce di Prost in 1:21.767. Qualche sorpasso che Prost effettua con molta circospezione, visto anche quello che era successo, mentre ci troviamo al 38esimo giro degli 82 previsti per questo Gran Premio dell'Australia del Sud, 16ª e ultima prova del campionato del mondo 1988, campionato ormai vinto da Ayrton Senna con la vittoria in Giappone. Qui Prost cerca di conquistare una vittoria in più, ma che non gli servirà. 1:21.678 per Senna, questo è il giro più veloce fino a questo momento, 1:21.678. Ancora riprese dall'alto ed eccoci nuovamente sul leader della corsa dopo l'incidente tra Arnoux e Berger, che ha tolto al ferrarista la soddisfazione di essere al comando del Gran Premio che l'anno scorso aveva dominato dopo il successo in Giappone.
Mi ha informato Zermiani dai box che Caffi si è arrestato per problemi di cambio. Prima aveva delle grosse difficoltà nell'inserimento delle marce, poi la frizione l'ha mollato di colpo e avendo anche difficoltà nell'inserimento, senza frizione ha dovuto fermarsi.
A questo proposito, visto che abbiamo parlato di cambio, chiamiamo in causa l'ingegner Chiti a proposito di questa possibilità che il futuro...
Alain Prost is now leading, as you know. Ayrton Senna is second, Piquet is third, Patrese is fourth, Nigel Mansell still struggling with fifth, Ivan Capelli's got into the pits with sixth. Now the car's out of the race, Alboreto's out, Larari is out, the Jonathan Palmer is out, Berger, Arno and Cathy. The accidents involving Alboreto, Berger and Arno have brought no injuries at all. There's been quite a few spins. We'll go straight back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Piquet goes through to complete the lap, still in third position, and Nigel Mansell is being drawn away from by Riccardo Patrese. When they start the next lap, it will be the 41st lap in this 82 lap and a half distance. But I say again, this Australian Grand Prix of 1988 is far from finished. Last year, only 8 drivers were classified as finishers. It's a tremendously demanding circuit. There are at the present moment 19 drivers out of the 26 who started effectively still running, because Alboreto is out, Larari is out, Palmer is out, and so to our misery are Berger, and not to our misery actually, René Arnoux, who took Berger off in an absolutely outrageous move. But Patrese has taken up the cudgels again. You can see now how close the Italian is to the Brazilian, Nelson Piquet, in the yellow Lotus Honda. Incidentally, we have news today that Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver, has re-signed for Lotus in 1989. Lotus will be using Judd engines, so it's the same team next year for Lotus as it has been this year. This man, number 1, 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet and his Japanese teammate Satoru Nakajima. And the gap between Nelson Piquet in 3rd position and Nigel Mansell in 5th is 1.5 seconds. It's amazingly consistent. The fastest lap of the race is that of Ayrton Senna, 1:21.668. That is exactly 1.2 seconds outside Gerhard Berger's 1987 lap record of 1:20.4, a speed of 105.1 miles an hour. And you're looking at Piquet on the left, 3rd position. Patrese in the basically white Williams in 4th place, and Nigel Mansell thundering along in the background. Another item of news while you're watching this battle, third, fourth and fifth, is that Bernie Ecclestone, the head man of poker, has admitted that he has sold all the share capital of the Brabham organisation to Walter Brunn, the Swiss slot machine magnate, who is the money behind the Euro Brunn team, and Brabham will next year be racing with, it is understood, Judd engines. Who the drivers will be, I have the faintest idea.
There we see on the caption a new fastest lap for Alain Prost. So the two McLaren drivers trading fastest laps as their fuel load lightens. And the gap now 8.5 seconds for Prost to Senna. Senna lost a little bit in traffic over the last couple of laps. And although Senna is fighting hard, it does look to me as and making Prost work all the way, it does look to me as if Prost is pretty much in control today.
And in less than 10 minutes, a very sad Gerhard Berger will be getting into a helicopter to leave for his home in Virgil in Austria at the end of an Australian Grand Prix, which he might well have won for the second year in succession. We haven't heard any more about the rain. Hopefully it was just a few spots of rain, but we do know that Sala, the Spanish driver, has stopped, so that looks like another retirement here in Australia. And believe me, there are going to be a lot more, because there is as much of this race still left to run, almost, as has already been run. That graphic gives you the relative positions of the first four men, and you can see that visually there is something now like half a lap between Prost, the leader, and the battle between Piquet and Patrese, which showed momentarily that Patrese was ahead of Piquet there, but I think that that was just the graphic, because Alain Prost on lap 44 now out of 82 is building up his lead over this man, Ayrton Senna, all the time. Senna, the very worthy world champion of 1988 with 8 victories, and even if Prost wins this race, which he shows every sign of doing, Senna will still have won more races than Prost, and that is the way the world champion should be decided, the man who gets the most points from winning the most races. But Prost is on his way at the moment to his 7th Grand Prix win. He is 9 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, and then it continues to be the battle between Piquet, Patrese, who is the leading 3.5 litre car driver, in 4th position, Mansell 5th, Capelli 6th. 7th is De Cesaris, almost in the points, as he has been once before this season. Thierry Boutsen is 8th and catching De Cesaris. 9th is Philippe Streff, and that's his best performance so far this year, the Frenchman in the AGS. 10th is Derek Warwick, 11th is Martini. 12th is still Johansson. In 11th position, it is Martini. 12th is Johansson, 13th is Gugelmin, 14th is Chiva, 15th is Nannini, in 16th place it is Modena, and here is Andrea De Cesaris going on the inside of Capelli.
Yes, he's been hounding Capelli for some laps now, and so that means that De Cesaris moves up into 6th place. One of his best race for quite a long time, and he's got quite a lot of amends to make up after his rather ridiculous performance in Japan, when he, in the middle of the race, slowed right down to remonstrate with a backmarker who he considered had done the dirty on him, and drove them both to a virtual halt, and meanwhile 2 people who were behind him nipped past, and he lost 2 places that he never regained, so that was pretty much his comeuppance for that. But in fairness to him, on this day he's driving a very good race.
Yes, it was the unfortunate Aguri Suzuki having his Grand Prix baptism who was crowded off the course by De Cesaris. But now, at hats off to the Italian, actually. As I said earlier on, when he goes jolly well. The trouble is he goes off too often in the process. But he's looking strong at the moment. He had a 4th place in Detroit. The best place he had next to that was a 9th position in Canada. And this is another last as you watch Piquet in 3rd position in the Yellow Lotus, chased by Patrese. The other last is that of De Cesaris, because it's his last race in the German Real team before he joins Dallara, and into the pits comes Nakajima. Now, Nakajima was in 18th position. It's a tyre stop. We didn't expect that, actually. The Goodyear technicians were pretty confident that unless the drivers scrubbed their tyres through spinning, which of course is exactly what Nannini has done, they would all be able to go through non-stop. So it's not a criticism of the tyre, it's the misfortune of the driver to have lost it and probably flat-spotted his tyres. Maurizio Gugelmin, chased by Nakajima, who has just come out of the pits. There's Piquet catching Modena to lap the man who is in 16th place. Stefano Modena, 16th in the Eurobrunn, and in this twisty section, unless Piquet can get through, and he has, I was going to say this would give Patrese in 4th place and Mansell 5th position the opportunity to close up. Modena sticks his hand out of the cockpit to say, pass me on my right. Thank you, Stefano, says Riccardo. Thank you, Stefano, says Nigel. Past him they both go. 3rd, 4th, 5th. Piquet, Patrese, Mansell. No change. No change at the front. Prost and Senna. De Cesaris 6th. Capelli down to 7th. Boutsen is still 8th, but 8 seconds now behind Capelli. And Capelli's probably got an overheating problem. I know that was worrying the March team potentially.
And another fastest lap for Alain Prost, and his lead is now mounted into double figures over Ayrton Senna, just under 11 seconds, 21.559 for Alain Prost. There we see it on the caption, and he seems to be getting more and more on top in his private battle with Senna today.
If Alain Prost wins this race, which he's certainly showing every sign of doing, it would not only be his 7th Grand-Prix victory of 1988, it would... And hello, there is Nakajima, the now very, very bent Lotus. So Satoru Nakajima, who went, I suspect that his trouble would have been cold tyres, and he hit Maurizio Gugelmin. So Nakajima came out of the pits on cold tyres. What do you mean cold tyres? What I mean is that the temperature would not be as high as it would be in racing conditions. Here's the replay. So you see the Minardi spinning. You see that Nakajima had got nowhere to go and that Gugelmin hit him. So as the Japanese exits his car, I expect we'll be seeing that again later, and we'll be able to give you a fuller description of what happened, that it was certainly one of the Minardis. I didn't spot which one, to be quite honest with you. Just a minute, it was Martini, Pierluigi Martini, who spun. Here it is, there's Gugelmin and Piquet. Now there is Martini spinning in front of Johansson. So Martini spins, Johansson avoids it, Gugelmin is hit by Nakajima, and it's goodbye mum from the Japanese and the Swedish driver. Johansson may yet regain. I didn't see how badly damaged his car was, but that's certainly Gugelmin out. So now we have Alboreto out, Larari out, Palmer out, Berger out, Arnoux out, Sala out, Nakajima out, and Gugelmin out. And I say again, there are going to be more, because the longer this race goes, and although it is not as hot as it was yesterday, when we had temperatures in the mid-90s, some 37 degrees centigrade, it is still very, very warm out there. The cockpit temperatures will be very high indeed, and in this race, on this circuit, a race which is going to last nearly 2 hours, and where the drivers are constantly changing direction, braking, accelerating, they get very, very tired indeed. Senna over the line. Now, he has now completed 49 laps. He's now 11 seconds behind the indomitable Alain Prost. There is Piquet in front of Ghinzani, who has been lapped. in the Zack-Speed. And Piquet is making better use of the traffic, I must say, than Patrese and Mansell are able to, because Piquet seems to be hitting it at just the right time. Mansell attacking Patrese, coming out of Foster's hairpin. Patrese in fourth place, being pushed very hard indeed by Nigel Mansell. Two cars of equal specification and ability. 3.5 litre Williams jug.
Yes, and Mansell has every lap closed up very sharply at Foster's hairpin under braking, and I think that's where he's going to have to line up his attack. His problem there, though, is that the entrance to the corner is very narrow, and it shouldn't be too difficult for Patrese to defend his position unless Nigel can sell him a dummy.
And in case you're wondering what that bit of technical jargon means, it means that I'm pretending I'm going to go this way when in fact I bob round the other way. And Nigel's very capable of doing that. Cheever then passing, coming out of the slipstream and going through in the arrows. And Patrese indulging in a little weaving there. Racetrack hairpin. That is a second gear corner. Now they're into the Victoria Park. That's the horse racing track on the left of the drivers. You can't see it. They go into the right-hander at Foster's now. And Mansell is getting into a position. Now they've got Warwick, Cheever and Nannini. But now, in front of Piquet, who is followed by Patrese and Mansell, are Warwick and Nannini and Cheever. And so, the third, fourth and fifth cars that you're looking at, Piquet third, Patrese fourth, Mansell fifth, are bearing down on 3 cars to lap them, and if there isn't a position change somewhere by the time they have done so, I would be rather surprised. Now, there is Warwick with Cheever behind him, chased by Nannini. Warwick is in 12th place, Cheever is 13th, Nannini is 14th. They're about to be lapped by Nelson Piquet, who is third. And Nannini takes Warwick, tucks in behind Cheever. So Nannini has moved up a place. Piquet is past Warwick. But still the 2 arrows, I was going to say are ahead of Patrese, they're not, because Patrese takes Warwick. Now he's got Nannini who is about to lap. Piquet is showing all his experience. The 3 times world champion, Nelson Piquet, who is in his 157th Grand Prix, is showing all his experience. And look at the gap now that there is. Just a bit greater than it was before, as Piquet on the start and finish straight passes Eddie Cheever, who tucks in behind the Lotus. Now Patrese's got to get past the arrows on the tricky bit of the circuit, coming up to the right-hander at Wakefield. Trying to go through on the inside, but Cheever shuts the door. Now the left-hander at East Terrace Bend, the right-hander at Flindon.
And Mansell closer yet again. It does just appear to me that when they get out onto the straight, for some reason Patrese just seems to have that little bit more power than Mansell. He just stretches the lead every time they get onto the quicker bits of the circuit. Now we're turning onto the main straight, and Mansell, although he's behind in the slipstream, therefore getting the advantage of the hole in the air, seems to drop back.
And once again the Australian Grand Prix has shown us, as Mansell tries to take Patrese on the inside, once again the Australian Grand Prix is showing us how tremendously competitive Grand Prix racing. What over Patrese spins? That's it! Patrese has at last been forced by Nigel Mansell into making a mistake, and I'm quite sure that that is what Nigel was trying to make happen all the time, and Nigel Mansell goes up into 4th place. Can he do anything about Nelson Piquet?
Yes, I quite agree with you, Murray. That was just the relentless pressure from Mansell. Finally forced the error from Patrese. Here you are. You see Patrese just gets it a little bit wide on the entrance. He's not quite on the line. It's a bit slippery off line, and the back just flips around on him. Harmless spin, but, well, harmless to the car and to Patrese, but harmful to his position in the race.
but he has managed to regain the circuit. That's one of the good things about that kind of exit to a corner. Prost goes through, and Prost has now completed 53 laps. We have a new fourth place man, and you are looking at him at this moment. It is Nigel Mansell. Senna is still 11 seconds behind Alain Prost. There is the race leader, who is on lap 54 in this 82-lap race, demonstrating that his title of the Professor, he has an alternative one of the Terrorist, because he is a man to be very worried about. And Alain Prost is now well on his way to his 7th Grand Prix win of 1988, leading Ayrton Senna by 10.8 seconds, and the interest is not so much between Prost and Senna as between Piquet in 3rd place and Mansell in 4th position, who is catching him, who is only 1.7 seconds behind as Prost goes on the inside of Warwick, and that is what should have happened at that corner when Berger came through to pass Arnoux.
Yes, indeed, a real shame for the race, for our afternoon's entertainment, because I'm sure there was a lot of battling to do between Berger and Prost had that battle been allowed to continue. So Prost through for another lap and really appearing very much to be controlling his gap to Senna. He got it up to 10 seconds, and it's been hovering between 10 and 11 seconds for some time now, as he certainly looks quite comfortable. So Warwick in for tyres, but he's got a problem. They're working around the back of the car, so I think he's probably got some sort of engine trouble.
Yes, Arrows have had an enormous amount of engine trouble during practice, especially actually Eddie Cheever rather than Derek Warwick. But Warwick's place is slipping away. Of course, being in the pit as long as that is doing his chances in the race absolutely no good at all. He was in 16th position. But now here is Prost, there is Senna, and Prost has already lapped Thierry Boutsen. Cheever is out of the race to join the retirees, and now in this Australian Grand Prix, in terms of effective runners, there are just 16 of them left, which means to say that 10 of them are out of the race.
Sono state fatte dalle persone che abbiamo sovente incontrato, che si è proprio creato un partito di quelli pro Senna, adesso inquadrato, e pro Senna, pro Prost adesso inquadrato, e pro Senna. Ecco, secondo lei, ingegner Chiti, quali sono gli elementi che possono calamitare queste simpatie sia da parte di Prost sia da parte di Senna?
Beh, sai, è una questione del carattere del pubblico, degli sportivi, del pubblico. Il fatto Senna rappresenta l'audacia, la giovinezza, e effettivamente ha uno stile nuovo, uno stile più imperioso, che ha coraggio, non ha paura del bagnato, mentre l'altro rappresenta più quello che è la riflessione, quello che è la tattica, quantunque abbia uno stile enormemente valido, eccetera. Però naturalmente certe simpatie penso che vadano più per il pilota, che non voglio dire che è più spericolato, che però insomma la sua gioventù lo porta a essere più audace. Del resto, quando Villeneuve correva, il suo rendimento che era quasi esclusivamente per l'audacia nelle sue considerazioni, in tutte le sue prestazioni, e il pubblico faceva tifo per Villeneuve.
Vedete intanto che meno di un secondo separa Mansell da Piquet. Mansell che è riuscito a liberarsi di Patrese e che, come avete visto, è andato in testa e coda in precedenza, e che adesso cercherà di riavvicinare e eventualmente tentare di superare Piquet. Intanto al 55esimo giro Prost precede Senna, Piquet, Mansell, Patrese quinto, De Cesaris sesto, settimo è Capelli, 11° Martini, 12° Nannini, 14° Modena, 17° Ghinzani, e sta risalendo posizioni su posizioni, anche perché ci sono delle modifiche, dei ritiri, dei testacoda tra le vetture che lo precedono.
Furious it is, with Alain Prost still leading his teammate Ayrton Senna. Nelson Piquet, the defending world champion, is third. Patrese is fourth. Mansell is fifth. De Cesaris is now sixth. And that's the order. The cars out of this race, there's been quite a few of them out so far, and there they are. Alboretta's out, Laroni's out, Palmer's out, Berger, Arnoux, of course, they came in contact. Cathy and Salak went out. Nakajima and Gugelman, they had an accident. And Eddie Cheever, the young American, born in Phoenix, Arizona, living in Monte Carlo, he's out of the race as well. That's 10 cars in total. Of course, it has been an exciting Grand Prix. The main issue of this Grand Prix so far, and controversial it is the incident that happened, and here it is in replay. Gerhard Berger came alongside the blue car of Arnoux. He moved right over on him. The car climbed upside there. It could easily have gone upside down, a classic accident. René Arnoux, known to be very difficult to pass, unfortunately doesn't use his rear view mirrors correctly. Caused what I would say is a tragedy to this race in a way, because it was building up to something absolutely wonderful, and I think the Honda engine McLarens would have been having a tough job to keep up with Berger. However, that was not to be. We'll go back to our commentary group here, and that of course is Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Prost, despite the fact his lead is now 12.4 seconds over Ayrton Senna, is not letting up at all.
And as he goes into racetrack hairpin, you probably just saw Ayrton Senna going round the right-hander of Brewery Bend. So there is the full length of the Brabham Straight, otherwise known as De Ketterville Terrace in Adelaide, when the Australian Grand Prix is not being held. And that represents in time just over 12 seconds. Lap 58. Prost ahead of Capelli, and the Italian who a lot of people thought might win, including, I must be honest, myself, is in 7th place and has been lapped by Prost, but not yet by Senna. Prost through, Senna through, Niki Lauda, who's over here with Lauda Air. He's just got Australia onto the routes of his Austrian airline, which is doing very nicely, thank you. And he's seeing his first Grand Prix for the whole of 1988. Says it hasn't changed all that much. Ayrton Senna, second position. And while you're looking at Senna, we are looking for Mansell and Piquet. And now Mansell, there he is. Look at this. You could be seeing a change for third position any moment now, because Mansell is getting closer and closer and closer to Nelson Piquet. This is the battle for third position, and they're approaching the part of the course where the nimbleness of the Williams could help Mansell.
Yes, and also the fact that there is a back marker in front of them that they're coming up to lap, and that's where I think Nigel will be pinning his hopes. These two had it coming together in the Japanese Grand Prix when Mansell was charging, came upon Piquet, who had several incidents and dramas already in the race, and they had a right old tangle, and Nigel got launched right up in the air. So now onto the straight, but this is where Piquet used the extra power of the Honda Turbo, and Piquet would very much like to get some breathing space between, but Mansell's going through, so Mansell's still chasing, but not close enough to have a go at Foster's hairpin, I don't think, on this lap, because that's where he got very close on the previous lap. Now, under braking here.
Alain Prost has again broken his previous fastest lap time. It's now 1 minute 21.2 seconds, and that is only 0.8 of a second off Gerhard Berger's lap record last year. And this is the excitement of the race. And we should also remember that Nigel Mansell, with the 3.5 litre Judd engine and unlimited fuel, will have absolutely no fuel problem at all. He can force as hard as the engine will let him, with the knowledge that he's got ample fuel to finish the race, whereas Nelson Piquet certainly can't. I know that the Honda engineers and technicians were worried about the ability of the McLarens and the Lotus cars to finish this race on the 150 litres of fuel that they are allowed if they were being forced. Well, Prost and Senna won't be having any problem, but Piquet might well be. The Lotus chassis does not handle as well as the McLaren chassis, and for all I know, and obviously I don't because I'm not in the cockpit, Piquet may have been having to use boost on occasions where neither Prost nor Senna had to, in which case, in the closing stages of the race, he may have to back off, in which case too, Nigel Mansell would be through up into third place to be on the podium for the third time in the 3 races that he would have finished. However, that is all hypothesis. This is fact. Piquet has completed another lap, as has Mansell. They are on their 61st.
Yes, it looks very much to me as if Mansell is going to have to force a mistake out of Nelson Piquet. Either that, or Piquet is going to have some sort of a tangle with a back marker, or get held up by a back marker anyway, because quite frankly, the nature of the circuit means that the only places where Mansell would have a chance are preceded immediately by good long straights, and the Lotus Honda can get away from the normally aspirated Williams, and really Nigel's just going to have to keep pressuring away and try and get a mistake.
Derek Warwick, the end of a terrible week for you. What happened?
Well, the warm-up this morning, we had a misfire with the engine, and we thought we cured it. And at the start of the race, I jumped in the spare car, but that also had a problem. So I got back in my race car, and we just had a misfire for the whole race, and eventually it kept cutting out, and it was just a danger. So I didn't want to cause an accident out there, so I just parked it.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Thank you.
It is incidentally Andrea De Cesaris that Prost is catching to lap, and Andrea De Cesaris is in 6th position. Now, I was saying I wonder if Senna has some sort of a problem, because, with no disrespect to Prost, I say again, it surprises me that Ayrton is as far behind his teammate in an identical car in a race and on a circuit that I would have expected to suit him very well, particularly bearing in mind that there is no pressure on either of them for the World Championship. That has been resolved. Alain Prost has now gone through and completed his 62nd lap. He therefore has 20 laps now to go between himself and his 7th Grand Prix victory of 1988. There's Piquet, that's Mansell in 4th position, and Piquet has eased out a little advantage over the Englishman, so he would seem not to be worried about his fuel. A race in this stage, very often the drivers are grappling with a problem, like they have a clutch problem, or they are missing gears, or the tires are going off, all sorts of things. For instance, Gugelmin in Japan had his water bottle in the cockpit break loose, and it was interfering with the pedals, and he was having to stamp on the water bottle in an effort to break it and let the water out so that he could operate the pedals without being encumbered. Now, we couldn't possibly have known that looking at the car from the outside. All that we knew was that Gugelmin wasn't going as fast as we would have expected him to. But Nigel Mansell is certainly dropping back. You can see that there's more than 1.5 seconds between him and Nelson Piquet now. As Prost goes through to complete yet another lap, there is still just about half a lap on the circuit between Prost in the lead on his 64th lap and Nigel Mansell, who has yet to come round and complete his 63rd. But when Mansell went through last time, the gap was about 1.5 seconds between himself and Nelson Piquet in 3rd position. There is one of them, there's Capelli coming into the pits now. Now, where is Piquet and where is Nigel Mansell, as Ivan Capelli, who was in 7th position and will now lose it, I think, goes into the pits for a tyre change. Up go the mechanics' hands. Out goes Ivan Capelli for a reasonable but not exceptional stop, and he's having trouble getting away. Now there he is going into racetrack the reason that he stopped, very obviously. Yes, he's spinning. I wouldn't have thought he'd flat-spotted tyres with a gentle half spin like that. But anyway, he burst out of the pit lane. You could see that there was rubber crumb on the outskirt, on the exit of the pit lane, and there'll be a lot of that all round the circuit, colloquially known as marbles, because if you get on them, you can spin out without any trouble at all. And now Prost is on lap 64, 82-lap race. Senna is dropping further and further and further back. Now the gap previously was 16 seconds, and Senna is visibly going much, much slower. The gap is now 21 seconds. Senna has got some sort of a problem. Prost is pulling away too much and too fast and too often for Senna to be driving a car with no problem whatsoever. And there was a spin there, which was just recovered, and Andrea De Cesaris has just missed it. And that means to say that Piquet will be a lot closer to Senna. The gap was 22 seconds, and I'm still waiting for Piquet to come through. Well, here he is. Piquet crosses the line as you look at Prost. Piquet is well ahead of Nigel Mansell now, so it would seem that the emphasis at the front of the race is changing from the ability of Red 5, Nigel, in fourth place to catch Nelson Piquet, to that of Nelson Piquet to catch Ayrton Senna in second place.
And now we see Alio there in his normally spectacular fashion, nearly got the thing stuck on its tummy on the curb. It's a very high curve, that. I think he did a bit of damage to the underneath of the car. I saw a few bits and pieces falling off it as he bounced it all over that curve, but he seemed to get going again.
Yes, Philippe Alliot has had more offs this year than you can shake a stick at. The Frenchman is very spectacular, and there you see it again, right up on the curb, dragging the under tray along. That won't have done it any good at all. Of course, he had two absolutely gigantic crashes in Monaco and Mexico. There is Nigel Mansell.
Yes, and Senna is definitely going slower. He's lapping some 4 seconds slower than he has been. And he's lost nearly 10 seconds in the last 2 laps to Alain Prost. So Senna is obviously in some sort of trouble. And that should fire Piquet up. He will have got that message from his pit, probably on his radio. You also have seen it on his pit board. And he is currently 32.7 seconds behind Senna. So we'll start watching that gap for you. And that's Nannini. Nannini stalled on the track. He's obviously had a spin.
That's at Stag Turn, the entrance to Rundle Road and the run down to Brewery Bend. Nannini's been doing a lot of this at this meeting. He put the Benetton very firmly into the wall, and he's obviously out of the race. Look at the positioning of the right front wheel in relation to the wing. So there is yet another retiree. Nannini out on lap 66, having, I imagine, hit the wall. I didn't see the whole of that spin. But there are getting to be less and less, as there were last year, runners in the Australian Grand Prix, the 16th and last race of the World Championship Series, dominated as ever by McLaren, but only because Arnoux took Gerhard Berger out of the race when the Austrian had a magnificent lead on lap 25 and completely destroyed the excitement of what was shaping up to be an absolutely magnificent race. And Senna, now the gap between Senna and Piquet is also coming down. I say also, the gap between Prost and Senna is increasing, and off spins Mansell. So there is a retirement. Nigel Mansell has again failed to finish in the Australian Grand Prix. He failed in 1986. He's given his leg a thump. He didn't even compete in 1987, of course, thanks to going off in practice in Japan. And it's a very sad finish to Nigel Mansell's career with Williams, with whom he has won so many races. Indeed, every race that Nigel Mansell has won in his career has been with Williams. And he's limping away now after 13 victories to finish his Williams career. What a sad, sad conclusion. But now his tyres looked bad before, you see, and don't forget that he'd been pushing Patrese. Patrese went off and now moves up a place.
Yes, he was appeared to be in a little bit of tyre trouble because he was losing ground to Nelson Piquet, and probably a bit of over-enthusiasm in his efforts to compensate for the lack of grip he was getting to the tyres, and then finally he just asked too much of the rear, spun the car, and basically threw away at least a fairly comfortable 4th place.
Race order then, lap 68, it is Alain Prost 30 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, with Nelson Piquet in 3rd position, Riccardo Patrese up to 4th position, Andrea De Cesaris up to 5th position, Thierry Boutsen is now in 6th place, Streff is 7th, Johansson is an incredible 8th, I say incredible because of the performance of the Ligier in the rest of this year, Capelli is 9th, Martini is 10th.
And that'll be a very exciting situation for Stefan Johansson, because he's got very serious motivation for this race, because Ligier need a 7th place in this race in order to get themselves into the top 20 teams, or top 20 cars, thereby getting free travel on all the overseas races. And because only the top 20 cars get their air freight paid, the other teams have to front up the money themselves, and that in a season is worth something like $2 million. So it's big money that Stefan Johansson's working for, and he just needs to get up one more place, and there will be mighty celebrations within the Ligier team.
Arrivasse settimo per non dover partecipare. Streif si è già salvato ai danni di Coloni nella gara precedente, e se Johansson dovesse riuscire ad arrivare settimo, la Ligier non dovrà partecipare alle prequalifiche.
Si tratterà di vedere adesso se Streif è disposto a dare una mano al suo ex patron Guy Ligier, proprio Streif che su una di queste curve ebbe un violento contatto col suo compagno di squadra Jacques Lafitte in uno dei precedenti Gran Premi di Australia. Siamo ormai alle battute conclusive di questa gara. Giustamente la telecamera è tornata su Riccardo Patrese al suo 176esimo Gran Premio, record alla pari con Graham Hill e Jacques Lafitte. Patrese è in 4ª posizione e occupa il primo posto tra i piloti con vetture dotate di motore alimentato a pressione atmosferica. Corsa molto incisiva questa di Riccardo Patrese, sicuramente motivatissimo dall'essere l'unico decano detentore di questo record di piste di record di Gran Premi in attività di servizio. Molto belle queste inquadrature dal basso in primo piano della Williams, e anche queste che vede la vettura emergere da un lieve dosso di questo tracciato stradale dell'Australia del Sud. Sessantanovesimo giro, ancora ormai sono 13 giri alla conclusione della corsa, mentre vedete nella sovrimpressione le posizioni sul circuito del duo Prost-Senna e di
Still leads here over Ayrton Senna, his own teammate in the same team. Then Nelson Piquet, a Brazilian just as Senna is in 3rd place. Riccardo Patrese, after a spin, has come up into 4th place again. 5th is De Cesaris, who's had an incident-filled weekend here. He's been spinning out quite a lot. And Thierry Boutsen, he spun this weekend, and he had a spin today. He's come up into 6th position. We've got quite a lot of retirements involved in this race so far. Here's a long list of them: Alboreto, Lauri, Palmer, Berger, Arno, Caffey, Sala, all of them are out. Nakajima's out, Gugelman, they had a crash together, Cheever, Nannini, Mansell, Modena and Ginzani. All of them are out of this race after 70 laps. The race certainly has been having lots of incidents involved. Nigel Mansell was in 4th position, lost control completely. The back end got loose, and look at the impact. Bang, in it goes. The rear wing certainly shortens that car by quite a lot. Nigel limped away, but he's perfectly all right. No injuries from today at all. And there you see Nigel coming out. I rather think he hit his leg getting out of the car, actually, because they are so tight for space. I don't think it was anything to do with the accident, because it was a rear end accident, not a front end accident. So there we have it. The race is still fast and furious. Don't go away, because Grand-Pri, in my experience, the race is never over to the checkered flag. What seems to be a foregone conclusion just now, in my books, certainly is not the case. Let's go back to our commentary team. Murray Walker with James Hunt.
Berger and Alboreto in Italy, and what a famous victory that was. There's the man who lost that victory, Ayrton Senna, when controversially he came up to pass Jean-Louis Schlesser in the Williams at the chicane at the end of the straight after the parabolica. And here is some news that may yet transform this race. On lap 72 out of 82, again, as I look up into the sky and some darkening clouds, we have the news that on the far side of the course there have been what described as a few spots of rain. That's what we heard before. The few spots stopped, they didn't affect the surface, they might this time.
Yes, the clouds look a bit high to be any real threat or any threat of real rain, but of course getting little tiny spots, if it's just to make the circuit damp, it makes it very difficult for the drivers because they can't see very easily just how wet it is. Now, the battle for second and third places between Senna and Piquet. Senna has responded. He seems to have found a little bit more speed again, and has certainly for the last lap has been able to stabilize that gap and hold the difference.
Yeah, the gap between Prost and Senna has come down from 34 to 30 seconds, which may well be Alain Prost already starting to pace himself home to victory. As you look at Riccardo Patrese in the Williams in 4th place, still chasing Nelson Piquet. Piquet is actually getting the gap between himself and Senna down, so Senna's problem, whatever it is continuing. It's 18 seconds now between Piquet and Senna. But Senna is now lapping faster than Piquet. 1:22.1 for Senna, 1:22.5 for Piquet, and Prost has slowed down and he's running 1 second a lap slower than Nelson Piquet, than Ayrton Senna, who is therefore the fastest man on the circuit. There is Alain Prost. He is on his 74th lap. And he's coming up now to lap Martini, the little Italian who gave Minardi their first ever point in World Championship racing when he made his comeback in the Detroit Grand Prix. He moves over, sees Prost large in his mirrors, lets the Frenchman through. The McLaren laps Martini for the second time, I think, and it's still Prost leading 30 seconds ahead of Senna. Then Piquet, 18 seconds further back. Patrese in 4th position. De Cesaris in 5th place. Thierry Boutsen once again showing signs of bringing a Benetton home in the points. And Boutsen is actually catching Andrea De Cesaris for 5th position. Thierry Boutsen is on one of those famous end-of-race charges of his, which have given him a record of 6 third places in this 1988 Grand Prix season. And Boutsen will be going to the Williams team next year with very high hopes after his achievements this year. Lap 74. Now the gap between Senna and Piquet is the critical one at the moment. Prost is well away now. No problem for him, it would seem.
Yes, and whatever Senna's problem is, he's certainly coping with it because he's responded to the threats. Apparently he's lost second gear, so that is what's been costing him the time, and he's obviously taught himself, he's found a way to drive around it more effectively because he's speeded up a bit, and he's certainly holding that gap to Nelson Piquet. Piquet is about to come fast, I'll give you the gap. And Boutsen has a broken exhaust. Piquet goes past. The gap has actually increased slightly, just over 19 seconds. So Senna appears not to be under any real threat at the moment.
But he is, Andrea de Cesaris is in the Real there. He is in 5th place, and notwithstanding the fact that Thierry Boutsen has a broken exhaust, which has happened before, here is the Belgian. Number 20 in the Benetton Ford, catching Andrea de Cesaris and being caught and about to be lapped by Ayrton Senna in 2nd position. Now, you heard from James that Senna has broken 2nd gear. There are 5 corners on this circuit where 2nd gear will be needed. And he's obviously going round them in 3rd now. De Cesaris 5th, Boutsen 6th. And the car behind them, Senna is 2nd. Prost is on his 76th lap. 6 laps to go, including the one he's on, as Senna exits Foster's hairpin, crosses the line, 32 seconds behind Alain Prost, gaining on the battle between Boutsen and De Cesaris for 5th position. Out of the race has gone Philippe Streff, the Frenchman. And there are now only 11 cars left in this race. Last year, only 8 finished.
Yes, and that moves Johansson up to that magic 7th place. So mighty huge will be the celebrations for the Ligier team if he can hold that to the end of the race.
Here, Carlo Ginzani's Zack speed doesn't look in any great shape as Riccardo Patrese rockets past him. And from the way that the Italian is straining in the cockpit as though to urge the car on, to no avail, it's very obvious that he is about to retire from the Australian Grand Prix. And all of a sudden, we now have 10 cars left and falling. Are we going to beat last year's record of 8 as out comes the steering wheel, followed from the Zack speed by Pier Carlo Ginzani as Prost goes on. Now, Boutsen seems to be missing. Now, no, there he goes. Boutsen goes through right behind Andrea de Cesaris, who is in 5th position. There they are. Now, those two are on their 74th lap, and Boutsen is going for that 5th place.
Yes, you'll be suffering a minor power disadvantage there with that broken exhaust, and he certainly was able to lap on his own very quickly. He caught De Cesaris, but that could be a big handicap when it comes to finding a way past. That little lack of power down the straights will certainly hurt him when he comes to try and get alongside and outbrake him.
De Cesaris, like Arnoux, is a man who is famed for the difficulty of getting past. He'll be more than conscious of the fact that Thierry Boutsen is there, because he can see the very distinctively shaped Benetton large in his mirrors, and as you watch them round the right-hander at racetrack hairpin, with Boutsen getting ever closer, it is still, of course, Prost leading, Senna 2nd, Piquet 3rd, Patrese 4th. This is the battle for 5th between De Cesaris and Thierry Boutsen. They exit Foster's hairpin, approach the finish line. This is where Boutsen gained on De Cesaris on the previous lap. He will take some more out of the Real this time. But whatever happens, you've got to take your hat off to Andrea de Cesaris, who has driven a fine race. He qualified well in 15th position, and he's fought his way up from 15th to 5th, all right, as a result partly of retirements, but nevertheless he is on schedule for 2 World Championship points. There's not much of this race left now. 5 laps, including the one that they are on, which is lap 78, going round Markets Corner, Stag Corner. That's it there. These, don't forget, are all Adelaide city streets, specially shut for the occasion. You can see the concrete walls that have been specially put in, debris fences. Nothing has been left to chance, even electronic scoreboards round the circuit. No spectators anywhere are better informed than the ones here in Australia. There are 10 cars left running in the Australian Grand Prix, with 4 laps to go at the end of this one, and with Thierry Boutsen pushing Andre De Cesaris in the white and blue 3.5 litre Ford-powered Real for 5th position. Prost leading by 32 seconds. Senna 21 seconds now ahead of Piquet, and his second place looks secure, in which case the McLaren 1-2, the 12th of 1988, looks secure. Never before in the history of motor racing has one team dominated a full 16-race Grand Prix season as McLaren have. And Boutsen goes through, and De Cesaris goes off. So Thierry Boutsen is up into 5th place, and De Cesaris is seemingly out of the race. And that's what's happening?
It looked to me as if his engine just died on him, or some sort of, certainly a mechanical problem. He didn't go off at all, and it appeared to be pretty sudden.
9 cars left? No, 8 cars left, because tragically, Stefan Johansson, who had got up into that much-desired 7th position, which would have saved Guy Ligier some $2 million, is out of the race, and that is a replay of Thierry Boutsen moving up from 6th to 5th, the man who has scored a record 6 third places in 1988. And that retirement of Stefan Johansson's was, I was going to say, almost as tragic as that as Gerhard Berger. It wasn't actually, but it was tragic nevertheless, because poor Stefan has had an absolutely appalling season, having driven for McLaren, having driven for Ferrari, having driven for Spirit, having driven for Tyrrell, and at the moment looks as though he is out of a drive, although there are rumours that he will be with one of the new teams next year, like, for instance, Mike Earle's Onyx team. Prost. Now, last year's finishers record, or lack of finishers record, has now been broken, because with 3 laps, including this, the 80th, to go, Ayrton Senna there second, Prost leading. There are only 7 cars left, and if any more fall out, we are only just going to get enough people to take the World Championship points places. 9 points for a win, down to 1 point for 6th position. It's going to be 7 victories for Alain Prost, who has dominated this race ever since the unfortunate Gerhard Berger was rudely removed from it by René Arnoux. And at the moment, it is a Honda-powered 1st, 2nd and 3rd, because that is Nelson Piquet. There is Riccardo Patrese in 4th place, this man. And Prost is leading 32 seconds ahead of Senna, who is about 19-20 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet, and there is no likelihood of anybody in the first 3 catching any of the men ahead of them. And so, unless there is a retirement, you are now seeing the race winner, Alain Prost, to make McLaren's double yet again. He's on his 81st lap. He's about to start the last lap. So let's think back very quickly as Prost approaches Foster's hairpin for the last time but one, and remind ourselves that for 25 spirited, superb laps, this race was led by Gerhard Berger, who had fought his way to the front, only for Alain Prost to take it over, and now there's just this last lap between him and his 35th Grand Prix victory.
Yes, fine drive by Prost, well deserved. He's been on top form all weekend, all through qualifying. He certainly was dominant in this race over the new world champion and his teammate Ayrton Senna. But Gerhard Berger was the one who gave us all a very pleasant surprise by catching and passing Prost in the early stages, only to be taken off by René Arnoux when he was lapping him. And in mitigation slightly for René Arnoux, whose business it is to know when you're being lapped, as it is of all drivers. But Berger did take a pretty much of a flyer move at him because, of course, that was the only way he was going to beat Prost. He was prepared to take risks, but he wasn't fully alongside Arnoux. But Arnoux, of course, just in a world of his own, closed the door on him, and it was a huge disappointment to everybody here in Adelaide, this huge crowd, to have that battle removed from them so summarily. So Prost on his way, and Senna comfortable in second place.
And just watch Glenn Dix. He has a checkered flag style like no one else in the world, which Alain Prost is about to see as he exits Foster's hairpin to win his 35th Grand Prix, second in the World Championship. A magnificent victory which he is obviously very, very happy and deservedly happy about. And fittingly, the last turbocharged Grand Prix after a decade and more of these engines is dominated by Honda engines. Victory in the McLaren for Alain Prost. Second place there, Ayrton Senna in the McLaren Honda. And Nelson Piquet will be third to take his third place of 1988. And Honda-powered McLaren and Lotus cars will therefore have finished first, second and third, as Ayrton Senna drives very gently across the line. There are the very happy Honda technicians with their flag. Piquet takes the third place, and now Riccardo Patrese, who made his debut for Williams last year in Australia when he was released by Bernie Ecclestone from the Brabham team, will come home in fourth place. And it's a long gap before Patrese comes through, and Alain Prost is meantime driving round on his victory lap, savouring every second of it, no doubt. And now I see Riccardo Patrese exiting the corner, crossing the line to take fourth position. And that's good news for Riccardo Patrese. This is his 176th Grand Prix. He has equalled the all-time record shared by Graham Hill and Jacques Lafitte. And in Brazil of 1989, Patrese will become the driver with the most Grand Prix experience. Crichton Brown on the left, Tim Wright on the right, Richard West with the beard, and Andrea De Cesaris being driven home by Thierry Boutsen. And the results of the Australian Grand Prix were that Alain Prost was the winner, Ayrton Senna in the McLaren second, Nelson Piquet third, Honda engines first, second and third, Riccardo Patrese, the leading 3.5 litre driver in the Williams, fourth place, followed by Boutsen in the points again. There he is taking De Cesaris home, and Ivan Capelli sixth in the march in the points. Certainly a race to remember, and Capelli there is bringing in Philippe Streff. It's quite a pick-a-back ending to the Australian Grand Prix. There are stranded drivers all round the circuit who are pretty anxious not to have to walk home. Quite apart from anything else, they would get no peace at all from autograph hunters, and they are very, very tired men. Neil Trundle, the man who with Ron Dennis ran Rondell Racing, John Connor, and Alain Prost out of the McLaren, while the marshals tried to start Capelli, and Streff seems to have to decide that he's going to walk home after all. There is the winner. Alain Prost has done this so many times, and that, sadly, is the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger. So the World Championship ends as you have just seen. A very easy victory. Ayrton Senna congratulates his teammates. Between them, with Senna having won 8 Grand Prix and Prost having won 7, they have won every Grand Prix except one this year. That was, of course, the Italian Grand Prix.
So another marvellous victory there for the McLaren team. That is their 10th first second this season in 16 races in Grand Prix, which is a fabulous effort for them. Today it was Alain Prost's turn. He was the dominant figure once, of course, Gerhard Berger was shafted out of here by the Frenchman, Grenier, which was a shame, because up until then it was a very, very close race, but that's the way it goes. You've done so unpredictable Grand Prix racing, and as we see the thousands and thousands of spectators stream into Pit Straight and into the pits themselves, trying to get a closer look at the cars and the drivers, trying to capture the atmosphere of the '88 Grand Prix, part of the bicentennial year. It's been a marvellous day. The rain held off. We'll probably get a shower later on tonight. It was still very warm, not as trying as yesterday. There we see a couple more of the drivers back into the pits. This is Gerhard Berger. That is a sorry, sorry tale. The Ferrari was going so well. He was leading after lap 26, and then he got the shunt and was out of it, and that was a real, real shame. Darrell Eastlake is down in the pits amongst all those thousands there. Darrell, I hope you've got a story for us.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Well, it's been a very quiet day in the pits today, really, with this race. But, Alan, it's always a race of surprises, and a few of the back markers doing very well.
Yeah, well, it always has a high rate of attrition, this circuit. It's very difficult on brakes. Not so bad on tyres, but the Williams team were worried about their brakes. I don't think that caused Nigel Mansell. I believe he was very tired when he got out of the car, but I refuse to believe it was fatigue. Another great day for McLaren, obviously, another 1-2. Their 15th victory out of 16 starts, an all-time record. But altogether, I think not a bad, fabulous atmosphere and not a bad race for the end of an era.
Thanks, Alan. Well, there it is, comments from the former world champion, Alan Jones. Back to you, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Darrell. Well, it's the winners now on the podium. Alain Prost, flanked by his teammate Ayrton Senna and Nelson Piquet. The French national anthem is now being played, which is rather ironic because Prost now lives in England, but of course his heart is still there. He's still a Frenchman at heart. Nelson Piquet, he's been there so many times before. He had a good final race after a disappointing year. The Professor. It's a nice moment, supposedly between two guys who have little time for each other. I think when it comes down to the end of the day, and they can admire each other's talents. Good on you, Alain Prost, a very, very popular winner here. Just one of the real great champions, and certainly a fan of Alain Prost is Jackie Stewart. He believes that he is the finest driver in Grand Prix racing these days, the smoothest, technically the best. He sees Ayrton as something a little bit different, obviously very, very talented. Also a lot of time for Nelson Piquet. It's the 35th career victory for Prost. He is the great all-time winner of Grand Prix, and now we've got the champagne bath, and everybody's involved. And Bob Hawke has come in for a shower. It had to happen. If you turn up at victory celebrations like our Prime Minister does, eventually somebody's going to get you. And today, he has been got. Unfortunately, our Prime Minister these days is a teetotaler. I don't know whether he got a teaspoonful of that one or not. But there they are, the McLaren teammates. Prost, Senna, and they'll be back again next year. And they will be even more formidable, according to Bernie Ecclestone, the boss of FOCA. He believes that Honda spend more money, there's no doubt about that, but they also do it better. They've got the perfect arrangement. They've got motor cars out on the streets, they've got the motorbikes, and they've got Formula One. It is a complete package, and they do it so very well. You can't dispute their ability. In fact, Honda engines took the first 3 placings here this afternoon, so it's a real high note for them to finish up on. Once again, the red Ferrari, and one of those will be driven next year by Nigel Mansell, who will join Gerhard Berger. Michele Alboreto, he's still looking for a ride. In fact, he only got into the first lap, and he dinged his car and he was put out. It was a sad way for Michele to finish his Grand Prix season with the Ferrari team. Well, it's time to take a breath, pay a few bills, and we'll be back in just a few moments with some special moments still to come. All right, now we're got Jackie Stewart, who's a very, very busy man. 1 minute up here in the studio. Next, he's down in amongst the throng, and he has Alain Prost to talk to.
Well, away from the throng, away from the champagne, Alan, 35 Grand Prix victories, a tremendous run for you today. Any complications in your run?
The gearbox was a problem. As usual at the end of the season, gearbox is a weak point in the McLaren chassis. And from second to third was a big problem. I had to change the gearbox since this morning. It was not perfect, but the car was running well, part of that. Engine was okay, fuel consumption was okay. Brakes also, which was a problem this morning for me. The only small problem I had is maybe 20 laps to go. I hit something on the ground coming from other cars, and I broken the front skirt, and the car suddenly started to have a huge understeer in the fast corners, and but Ayrton had some problems, so I was okay.
Now, you were able to win this race, 105 World Championship points, and you're not World Champion?
Yeah, it's amazing. In 2 seasons, 84 and this one, I get 180 points and not being World Champion. Why sometimes some drivers are World Champion with 35 or 40 points. But the important thing at the moment is, to win this race. It's an historic race for me, because I won my 35 races with a turbo engine, and today is the last race of the turbo engine. So it's one step forward to the legend.
Well, that's a tremendous record, and well done to you. Congratulations. Now to you, Ayrton, World Champion-elect. You had troubles today.
A few ones, but I think Alan drove well, and it was a different race because no pressure, just trying to do your best, but without much pressure. And I think he enjoyed much more this race than on any other this year. So did I, even with the problems. Mainly was a gearbox problem, and the engine was not running very well, and the gearbox just got worse and worse to a point that the second gear is trip, and then first gear as well, and so I was struggling for the last few laps to keep going. But I'm quite happy to have a first and second with McLaren, the last race of the year, and as everybody knows, the last race of a turbo era, so it's a good result.
What about the wrist that was spoken so much about? I noticed you wanted to shake hands with your left hand when you came in here right now. Is it still troubling you, and was it a problem in the race?
Well, it didn't help, but wasn't really the problem. As soon the gearbox started to be a problem, then was a problem, because the gear was jumping out. I had to keep the hand on, and it was kicking backwards, so it was bad then. But we made it. We finished 1 and 2, and that is what it matters.
Well, many congratulations, and of course for winning the World Championship. Now, I'll move over to Nelson Piquet, who is in a hurry to get away, I might tell you, because he's flying out tonight. Nelson, you still must be very happy to have finished third after what has been a very difficult season.
Yeah, it's not doubt. It was a very difficult season for me. And that was a good result to finish.
And the car this season, was it any better here in Adelaide than it has been during the season so far?
No, Honda improved the engine a lot after the Japan Grand-Pri, and we got a lot of more horsepower and make it easy to compete with another guy. The difference between our car and McLaren is still the same.
And that is mainly in the chassis, you would say?
No, mainly yeah, it is, of course.
Okay, from 3 men who have had a hard and hot day, and from Nelson Piquet, who's rushing to get away, back up to you in the studio.
I was not worried at all. I knew that I knew before the race that Berger and the Ferrari wanted to show something today, but I let him pass in the straight because it was much quicker, using for sure more power, and he didn't take care about the fuel. We had fuel problem with the Honda engine, so we know that we are much better than the Ferrari. I was not worried at all about his performance.
Well, it was a hard race, long one. From the beginning, I had some difficulties with the engine. I wasn't getting enough power from it, and a problem with the gearbox, like Aaron had. And that wasn't helping at all, to a point where second gear went completely, and then first gear also. So it was a struggle to finish second. So I think Alan drove very well. It was the last race. We had fun and no pressure anymore, and he deserved it. It was a good race, good drive, good win. And for the last race of a turbo, 1 and 2 for McLaren again, I think that is good enough.
I had a breakfast this morning with Gerhard, and I knew that he wanted to go with full boost, and didn't care about the fuel consumption, because they were so bad in fuel consumption that they knew they could not win the race. So I did not take care of him and just let him pass in the straight and just wait for the right moment. Then the Vermonti could not go quicker because of fuel consumption. So I was happy when he had a problem with Arno, but he did not change anything on the sort of the race. I wanted to win the last one. It was also very important for the historic point of view. I won 35 races with a turbo engine, and that is the last race of the turbo engine. I think I deserve to win the last one.
I think Alan drove a very good race, deserved a win, and was a good finish for McLaren Honda in the air, 1 and 2, fantastic.
Well, now Victoria Park, Adelaide turns back into a horse racing track from a Grand Prix circuit, because that's the end of Grand Prix 1988. 16 races that we will always remember for the dominance of the McLaren Honda team. Next year, though, the racing should be much closer because there'll be no turbos. Every team will have a normally aspirated engine. So now, let's look back on the highlights of 1988. Definitely a Grand Prix year to remember.
And look at that. Whoop.
Senna's now having a look, and Senna goes down the inside to take the lead from Prost.
Is getting past both of them. Oh, fantastic! And it's starting to rain again as Mansell goes through and nearly off and up into second position. and into the lead goes Berger, into second place goes Alboreto. What a fantastic situation! Crosses the line and you can see his exultation. He knows he is the world champion. Earlier in the year I was privileged to meet Fleetwood Mac, and I know that a lot of you enjoy their music, so we're going to say goodbye to 1988 to the theme of their fine music, the theme of Grand Prix, From the Chain. And I'll look forward to seeing you in 1989.
Well, there we are, an epic struggle between two brilliant drivers and a great 1988 season. But Sterling, in your opinion, did the right man win?
I think so. Overall, yeah, he made mistakes, but my goodness, he's a real racer. I mean, Ayrton Senna, in my mind, is the racer of the period. And when he goes, my gosh, he goes. Doesn't matter what the weather's like or anything else. I think he deserved it because although he did make mistakes, I think he made more sensational races to make up for them.
And McLaren, would they be the team of the period?
Well, McLaren, if you've got a McLaren, you've got to win. And I think they were sensational. They gave him the backing he deserved. And also Alain Prost as well. I mean, you know, we've got two of the finest drivers in the world, and they came out on top.
Well, we've seen the end of the turbocharged era, and next year it's all atmospheric. So what about the views for next year?
That has to be even better. I mean, we saw great racing this year, but they weren't as close as they might have been. Next year, I would think has to be that much closer. We probably will have 4 or 5 teams right in there with a possible of winning, and it has to be a better deal, I reckon.
Well, there we are, a fantastic season. Let's hope 1989 season is as good as this one.